The rain hammered the cemetery like fists on a coffin lid, turning the fresh earth into a slick grave of mud that sucked at Liam's boots. He stood there, soaked to the bone, staring at the hole where they just lowered Grandma Eleanor, his anchor, his secret keeper, while the rest of the family milled about like ghosts under black umbrellas, whispering condolences that felt like accusations. "She's in a better place now," Aunt Marjorie said, her voice slicing through the downpour. But Liam knew the truth. The only better place was the one she'd carved out for him in her cluttered attic, away from their judgmental eyes. And now that was gone too. He didn't cry. Not then. The tears would come later, in the dim glow of his apartment. But in that moment, fury burned hotter than grief. A raw, electric rage at how they'd already started divvying up her life like spoils of war. Uncle Harlan had claimed the silverware, Cousin Becca the porcelain dolls, and no one, not a single soul, had asked about the old suitcase tucked in the corner of her bedroom, the one with the brass locks and faded leather that smelled of mothballs and forgotten summers. It was Liam's now, by unspoken right, but as the mourners shuffled toward their cars, he overheard Harlan muttering to Marjorie, "We'll sort the rest at the house. Everything goes through the estate." Liam's fists clenched. That suitcase wasn't the rest. It was his lifeline, the vessel of letters and photos she'd hidden for him, proof that someone in this godforsaken family had loved him without strings. By the time he slipped into the funeral home's side room to grab it, heart pounding like a war drum, he found the door ajar, the suitcase already pried open on the table, its contents spilling like entrails, yellowed envelopes tied with ribbon, a tarnished locket, and at the bottom, a small leather-bound journal with "For Liam, when you're ready," scrawled on the cover in her looping script. But Harlan was there, rifling through it with meaty hands, his face twisting in disgust as he pulled out a faded photo of two men embracing under a rainbow flag at a long-ago pride parade. "What the hell is this?" Harlan growled, voice low and venomous, and Liam froze in the doorway, the world narrowing to that single, shattering moment, the betrayal not just of theft, but of exposure, right there in the shadow of her grave. Liam lunged forward, his voice a ragged whisper that cracked like thunder in the stuffy room. "Put it down, Uncle." "That's mine." Harlan's head snapped up, eyes narrowing under bushy brows, the photo crumpling slightly in his grip. The air thickened with the scent of lilies from the viewing room next door, cloying and suffocating, as if the flowers themselves were choking on the family's rot. "Yours," Harlan scoffed, tossing the photo onto the pile like it was contaminated. "Nothing in this house is yours, boy. Eleanor's will hasn't even been read yet. This is family property, proper family." The word "proper" landed like a slap, echoing all the Sunday dinners where Liam had bitten his tongue, all the sidelong glances when he brought home a male friend from college instead of the expected girl next door. Liam's chest heaved, rain dripping from his dark curls onto the threadbare carpet. He was 25, lean from years of waitering tables in dive bars to pay for art school tuition his parents wouldn't touch. And in that instant, he felt every inch the outsider he'd always been in this sprawling Midwestern clan, born in the Rust Belt town of Elmwood, Ohio, where cornfields stretched like judgmental fingers and the local paper still ran op-eds on traditional values. Grandma Eleanor had been the exception, the widow who'd moved from California after Grandpa died, bringing whispers of Hollywood glamour and a quiet defiance that let her slip Liam extra cash for books that were really for his first tentative steps into the gay underground of Cleveland's scene. She'd known, of course, had known before he did, spotting the way his eyes lingered on the boys in the high school yearbook, And instead of horror, she'd pulled him aside one humid July evening, handed him a mug of chamomile tea, and said, "Love's not a sin, Liam. It's the only holy thing we got." Now, Harlan loomed over the suitcase, a bear of a man in his polyester suit, his face flushed with the kind of righteousness that came from too many beers at VFW meetings. "You think we didn't know about your inclinations? Eleanor babied you, filled your head with that liberal nonsense. But this," he jabbed a finger at the journal, "this cover now askew, revealing a pressed wildflower from some long-ago hike. This ain't right for decent folk. I'll burn it myself if I have to." Liam's vision blurred, not with tears, but with a white-hot clarity. He snatched the journal first, cradling it like a shield, then swept the envelopes into his arms, the leather suitcase banging against his knee as he backed toward the door. "Touch it, and I'll call the cops." She left it to me verbally, in front of witnesses. It was a bluff. Grandma had been too frail for legal fuss, but the lie bought him seconds. Harlan advanced, but Marjorie's voice called from the hall, "Harlan? The lawyer's here." And in that hesitation, Liam bolted, suitcase in tow, out into the relentless rain. He drove through the storm in his beat-up Ford Focus, wipers slapping futilely against the torrent, the suitcase wedged between the seats like a passenger. Elmwood blurred past, the neon-lit diner where he'd flipped burgers as a teen, the Baptist church with its "God hates fags" sign faded but unremoved since the 90s, the trailer park where his parents still lived, pretending their only son was going through a phase. He headed east toward Cleveland, where the city's jagged skyline promised anonymity, where he'd scraped together a life sketching portraits in coffee shops and crashing on friends' couches after his folks cut him off. The journal burned in his lap, unopened, its weight a talisman against the ache hollowing his ribs. By the time he pulled into his studio apartment on the east side, a third-floor walk-up with peeling wallpaper and a view of Lake Erie's moody gray, he was shivering, not just from cold. The place was a mess of half-finished canvases and takeout containers, the air thick with turpentine and regret. Liam dropped the suitcase on the sagging futon, its locks clicking open with a sigh that sounded too human. He didn't unpack it right away. Instead, he brewed coffee in a pot that hadn't been cleaned since summer, the bitter steam curling like ghosts, and sank to the floor with his back against the wall. Outside, the rain eased to a patter, streetlights flickering on in the gathering dusk. Cleveland wasn't home, not really, but it was shelter, a place where men like him could hold hands in bars without whispers turning to shouts. He'd met Jacob here, 3 years back, at a poetry slam in a warehouse-turned-art space. Jacob, with his easy laugh and calloused hands from carpentry gigs, had recited a piece about building houses from broken bones, and Liam had sketched him on a napkin, capturing the curve of his jaw, the spark in his hazel eyes. They'd been on again, off again since, a rhythm as unpredictable as Ohio weather. Jacob lived in a converted loft downtown, smelled of sawdust and fresh paint, and had a way of making Liam feel seen, not scanned for flaws. But lately, the off parts stretched longer. Jacob's ex, a brooding musician named Theo, kept circling back with late-night calls, and Liam's own doubts, fueled by family poison, whispered that he wasn't worth the hassle. Last week, after a fight over Liam's emotional walls, Jacob had stormed out, muttering, "You gotta let me in sometime," or "What's the point?" Now, staring at the suitcase, Liam pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over Jacob's name. "Hey, Grandma's gone. Can we talk? He hit send before cowardice could stop him, then finally cracked the journal. Eleanor's words spilled out in ink faded but fierce. Entries from her youth in San Francisco, loving a woman named Clara amid the fog and forbidden jazz clubs. Notes on watching Liam grow. Her pride mingled with sorrow at the world's cruelty. And at the end, a letter dated just weeks ago. My dearest boy, it began. If you're reading this, I've shuffled off this mortal coil Shakespeare would approve. Remember the suitcase? It's more than junk. Inside, find the key to the safety deposit box in Cleveland, number 417 at First National. It's yours, for the life you deserve. And Liam, love fiercely. It's the only rebellion that lasts. Tucked between pages was a brass key, small and cold, and a photo, young Eleanor, arm around Clara, both grinning under a bridge strung with lights. Liam traced their faces, a sob finally breaking free. For the first time since the grave, he felt not just loss, but possibility, a thread pulling him forward into the night. The next morning dawned brittle and bright, sunlight slicing through the blinds like accusations. Liam hadn't slept. The journal had kept him up, Eleanor's voice echoing in his head, urging him toward that bank downtown. He showered quickly, the hot water stinging his skin, and dressed in his least-worn jeans and a flannel shirt Jacob had left behind, soft cedar scent lingering like a promise. The suitcase stayed locked, its remaining contents a mystery for later. For now, the key felt like enough, a talisman against the emptiness. Traffic hummed on the interstate, semis rumbling past billboards for megachurches and truck stops, the American heartland unspooling in flat greens and grays. Cleveland's towers rose ahead, steel and glass etched against a sky too blue for morning. First National Bank squatted on Euclid Avenue, a relic of Gilded Age grandeur with marble columns and brass fixtures polished to a gleam. Liam pushed through the revolving doors, the air-conditioned hush swallowing his footsteps. At the safety deposit counter, a teller with a name tag reading Miriam smiled efficiently. Box 417? Sign here, please. Her eyes flicked to the key in his trembling hand. But she said nothing. Professional neutrality, the kind that lets secrets breathe. The vault room smelled of metal and old paper, rows of locked drawers humming faintly under fluorescent lights. Box 417 yielded with a click. And inside, not gold or bonds, but a fat envelope stuffed with cash. $5,000 in crisp hundreds, and a stack of letters, each addressed to Liam in Eleanor's hand, postmarked from places she'd never spoken of. New York, Chicago, even Paris. But it was the final item that stopped his breath. A legal document, notarized, granting him power of attorney over a small trust fund Eleanor had squirreled away from Grandpa's life insurance, untouched for decades. For your education, your freedom, the note read. Don't let them take it. Liam's knees buckled. This wasn't just money. It was armor, a way out of the ramen and regret cycle, tuition for the graphic design program he'd deferred twice. He resealed the box, heart thundering, and emerged into the lobby just as his phone buzzed. Jacob. On my way. Meet at the lake? They met at Edgewater Park, where Lake Erie lapped at concrete shores under a wind that whipped whitecaps into frenzy. Jacob arrived in his pickup, toolbox rattling in the bed, his broad shoulders filling the doorway as he stepped out. He was 30, with a fade haircut dusted in sawdust, tattoos snaking up his forearms, roses and rivets, symbols of beauty forged in steel. Liam, he said, voice rough as gravel, pulling him into a hug that smelled of pine and possibility. No questions at first, just the press of bodies, Jacob's hand firm on the small of Liam's back. They walked the pier, gulls wheeling overhead, and Liam let it spill, the funeral, the suitcase, Harlan's sneer, the journal's revelations. Jacob listened, hazel eyes steady, only interrupting once. She sounds like a force. Like you. By a rusted bench overlooking the water, Liam pulled out the key, the envelope's edge peeking from his pocket. This changes things. I can finally... Jacob's kiss cut him off, urgent and salt-tanged from the lake spray, a reclaiming that melted the morning's chill. Good, Jacob murmured against his lips. Because I've been an idiot. Theo's calls? Background noise. You're the signal, Liam. Always have been. They lingered there, hands intertwined, the city skyline a jagged promise behind them. For a moment, the world felt vast and kind, Eleanor's gift a bridge from grief to grace. But as they drove back to Jacob's loft, Liam's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. We know about the box. Meet at the diner. Or we tell your parents everything. Harlan's doing. No doubt the vultures circling closer. The diner was a relic on Lorraine Avenue. Vinyl booths cracked like old skin. The jukebox crooning Patsy Cline under the haze of grease and regret. Liam slid into the booth across from Harlan, the man's bulk making the table groan, coffee steaming black between them like a truce flag. Jacob had wanted to come. Let me back you up. But Liam had waved him off, needing to face this alone, to prove he wasn't the scared kid Harlan remembered. The envelope burned in his jacket pocket. $5,000 a secret weight. What do you want? Liam asked, voice level, though his pulse thrummed like a bass line. Harlan stirred his coffee, spoon clinking like chains. Straight to it. Huh? Fine. Eleanor's will, you think that little trust covers it? Lawyer called this morning. She left the house to you, too. Contingent on family harmony. He air-quoted the words, lips curling. But we contest it. Easy. Your lifestyle, that's ammunition. The word hung, laced with venom, and Liam's stomach twisted. Not at the threat, but at the casual erasure, as if his love for Jacob was a footnote, not the boldest line in his story. Outside, Cleveland traffic snarled, horns blaring like distant thunder, a reminder that life churned on, indifferent to personal wars. I didn't ask for the house, Liam said, leaning forward. Just the suitcase. The memories. Harlan's laugh was a bark, drawing glances from the waitress with her beehive hair. Memories? That old bat filled your head with fairy tales. Clara, your journal's got stories that'd make the church ladies faint. We burn 'em all, or you sign over the trust. Let the proper family handle it. Liam's fingers tightened on his mug, knuckles whitening. Proper, there it was again. The code for straight, white, God-fearing. The Elmwood ideal that had driven his parents to disown him at 18, when they found his sketchbook filled with portraits of boys from the swim team. Grandma had taken him in then, her bungalow a sanctuary of chamomile and quiet counsel, teaching him to draw not just faces, but souls. But Harlan wasn't done. He slid a photo across the table, the one from the suitcase, Eleanor and Clara under that bridge, now dog-eared. This? Proof she was as twisted as you. We'll leak it, boy. ruin her name in town. Your ma's already crying about grandkids she won't have. The manipulation landed like a gut punch. Harlan weaponizing blood ties Liam had long severed. Yet beneath the bluster, Liam saw fear of a legacy disrupted, of Eleanor's quiet rebellion echoing too loud. You think that's power? Liam whispered, sliding the photo back. It's love. And you can't touch it. He stood, tossing a 5 on the table for the untouched coffee, and walked out into the midday sun, the diner's bell jingling like a laugh. Back at Jacob's loft, exposed brick walls and half-built furniture cradling the chaos of creation, Liam paced the length of the open space, the envelope clutched like a grenade. Jacob was at his workbench, sanding a cherrywood table, the rhythmic scrape grounding the air. What did the bastard say? Jacob asked, setting down the tool, wiping sweat from his brow with a forearm that flexed under ink. Liam recounted it all, the contest, the threats, the photo, and Jacob's jaw set, a storm brewing in those hazel depths. They're scared, he said finally, crossing the room in 2 strides to pull Liam close. Of you stepping into your power. Don't sign shit. They spent the afternoon plotting. Not with lawyers. Liam couldn't afford one yet, but with heart. Jacob cracked open beers from the fridge, the hiss punctuating their words, and they spread the letters on the kitchen island. Eleanor's script a map of resilience. One from Chicago, 1952. Clara left for the war effort, but she promised to write. Loves a letter. Darling. Keep sending them. Another from Paris, 1968. Riots in the streets, but we danced anyway. Find your dance. Liam. Jacob read them aloud, his voice a low rumble that turned pain to poetry. And by evening, as the sun dipped behind the Cuyahoga, they drafted a response to Harlan. A polite email from Liam, CCING the lawyer, asserting his claim with Eleanor's notarized intent. No contest, it ended. Or we go public with everything. It was a risk, airing the family skeletons, but Jacob's hand on his steadied the tremble. That night, they cooked Jacob's chili, spicy and soul-warming, Liam chopping onions that blurred his vision like fresh tears. Over bowls steaming on the couch, they talked futures. Liam enrolling in classes with the trust money, Jacob pitching his custom furniture line to galleries downtown. We build something, Jacob said, lacing their fingers. A life, not just survival. Liam leaned into him, the loft's exposed beams overhead like a cathedral vault, and for the first time, belief flickered, fierce, fragile, but real. But dawn brought the backlash. Liam's phone rang at 6 a.m., his mother's number flashing like a wound. Liam James Harper, she hissed, voice thick with sleep and spite. Your uncle says you're stealing from us. Threatening to drag our name through the mud with that filth from the suitcase. He sat up in Jacob's bed, sheets tangled around his waist, the city stirring outside with distant sirens. Ma, it's not. She cut him off. Your father's heartbroken. Says you're dead to him already. But this is betrayal. Click. The line went silent, heavier than the rain the day before. Jacob stirred beside him, arm draping over like an anchor. Ignore it, he murmured. But Liam couldn't, the words burrowed, old scars reopening. He drove to Elmwood that afternoon, suitcase in the trunk like contraband, needing to see the house one last time before the lawyers descended. The bungalow sat on Maple Street, sagging porch swing creaking in the breeze. Hollyhock's grandma had planted nodding like sentinels. Inside, it smelled of her still, vanilla candles and lavender sachets, despite the estate crew's half-hearted packing. Liam wandered the rooms, fingers trailing dust on the mantel where her wedding photo to Grandpa stood beside that hidden one of Clara. In the attic, amid trunks of feather boas and yellowed playbills from her acting days, he found a loose floorboard. Prying it up, his breath caught. Another envelope, this one sealed with wax, addressed to my rebel grandson. It held a deed, not to the house, but to a plot of land upstate, near the Finger Lakes, bought in the 70s as a retreat for her and Clara. Bury your roots here, she wrote. Plant something new. Tears came then, hot and unbidden, as Liam pocketed it, the suitcase's secrets multiplying like hope. But downstairs, the front door banged open. Harlan, with two cousins in tow, faces set like stone. Told you he'd come sniffing, Harlan growled, spotting the suitcase by the stairs. Hand it over, boy. Or we make that call to the paper, Grandma's dark secret exposed. The confrontation erupted in the living room, voices rising over the tick of the grandfather clock. This is theft, a cousin yelled, lunging for the case, but Liam sidestepped, adrenaline singing in his veins. It's mine, her gift to me. Harlan's hand clamped his shoulder, bruising, and for a heartbeat, Liam saw the abyss. Family turned foe, love twisted to leverage. Then his phone buzzed. Jacob, where are you? On my way. Strength surged. Let go, Liam said, calm as lake ice, or face me in court. With proof. Harlan hesitated, the cousins shifting uneasily, and in that crack, Liam slipped free, bolting for the door with suitcase in arms. Tires squealed as he peeled out, Elmwood shrinking in the rear view, but the rear view held Harlan's truck. Gaining. The chase stretched 5 miles of backroads, Korn whispering accusations, Liam's focus rattling like bones. Harlan's F-150 loomed, horn blaring, but at the highway merge, a cop car materialized, routine patrol, lights flashing. Liam pulled over, heart hammering, as Harlan braked hard behind. The officer, a wiry woman with a no-nonsense braid, approached. Everything all right? Liam nodded, voice steady, family disagreement. He's harassing me over inheritance. Harlan blustered, but the cop's radio crackled. A call about a disturbance at the estate, and she waved him off with a warning. Cool it, sir. Or next time, it's papers. Liam arrived at Jacob's shaking, the suitcase a trophy on the counter. Jacob enveloped him, no words needed, just the press of chest to chest. Heartbeats sinking. You're safe, Jacob whispered, and in that loft, with the city lights twinkling like stars reclaimed, Liam believed it. But as they unpacked the suitcase fully, letters, locket, a silver bracelet engraved, C&L Forever, Liam found one last note, slipped into a side pocket. Betrayal comes from those closest, but so does salvation. Trust the builder. Jacob, reading over his shoulder, grinned faintly. That's you and me. They clinked mugs of tea, Eleanor's recipe, and planned the move to the Finger Lakes plot, a cabin from Jacob's hands, a studio for Liam's art. Dawn painted the windows gold, a new chapter unfurling, but shadows lingered, Harlan's threats a storm on the horizon. Weeks blurred into a tentative rhythm, the trust fund's check clearing like a benediction. Tuition paid and classes starting at the Cleveland Institute of Art. Liam threw himself into it. Life drawing sessions where charcoal smudged his fingers black. Critiques that sharpened his edges without breaking them. Jacob's workshop hummed beside the loft. Commissions rolling in for reclaimed wood pieces that whispered stories in grain and knot. Evenings, they walked the lakefront, hands brushing in the chill autumn air, sharing dreams over falafel from the Syrian spot on St. Clair. Finger Lakes by spring, Jacob said one night, breath fogging as they leaned on the pier rail. Cabin with a view, your studio overlooking the water. Liam nodded, the plot's deed a constant in his wallet. But doubt nipped at the edges, Harlan's silence too loud, the family's radio static too ominous. It broke on a Tuesday, gray skies spitting sleet as Liam exited his graphic design seminar. His phone exploded with notifications. Voicemails from unknown numbers, texts from cousins he'd blocked. Check the Elmwood Gazette. One read, link attached. Heart sinking. He clicked, front page digital splash. Local matriarch's shocking double life. Lesbian past exposed in estate battle. The photo was Eleanor's with Clara. Cropped and captioned hidden shame. Below, an anonymous source, Harlan, undoubtedly, painted her as delusional. Her will a manipulative ploy to favor the troubled grandson. Liam's knees buckled against a lamppost. Students streaming past oblivious. The city's pulse mocking his unraveling. He called Jacob from a bench in the quad. Voice fracturing. They did it. Went public. It's everywhere. Jacob's truck was there in 20 minutes. Engine growling like a guardian. They drove in silence at first. Liam scrolling the comments. File sludge of disgrace and pray for them. Until Jacob snatched the phone, tossing it to the dash. Don't feed it. We're fighting smart. At the loft, they huddled with laptops. Jacob's carpenter's hands gentle on Liam's as they drafted a response. Not rage, but truth. Liam wrote an op-ed for the Cleveland Scene. Eleanor's words woven in. Her love for Clara as fierce as any, a life lived defiantly in shadows. Grandma taught me inheritance isn't land or cash, he typed. It's courage. Published Friday. Rippling through alt weeklies. But the damage festered. His mother left a voicemail. Weeping. You've killed her memory. Liam. Come home. Get help. The betrayal cut deepest from within. At art class, whispers followed. That's the guy from the article Grandma was. Liam's sketches turned jagged. Lines bleeding anger onto paper. Jacob noticed, pulling him aside after a late-night session. Talk to me. Curled on the futon. Liam confessed the shame, not his, but absorbed. Osmosis of familial poison. What if they're right? What if loving you makes me wrong? Jacob's eyes flashed hurt, then resolve. Wrong? You're the truest thing I've known. He kissed Liam slow, deliberate, a reclamation under the loft's pendant light, bodies aligning like puzzle edges. It wasn't passion's fire, but embers warm, sustaining, a reminder that love mends what words break. Yet the storm swelled. Harlan escalated, filing the will contest in probate court, claiming undue influence. The lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Reyes, paid from the trust, met them in a conference room smelling of stale donuts. They've got character witnesses, she said, flipping files. Your parents, aunts, painting Eleanor as unstable, you as opportunistic. Liam's throat tightened. Opportunistic? He clawed for every scrap, from busking sketches on Coventry to crashing Jacob's couch. Reyes leaned in. We counter with the letters, the deed proof of her intent. But it'll drag. Months maybe. And public. Jacob's hand found his under the table, steady as oak. Court dates loomed like thunderheads. But first, a reckoning. Liam drove to Elmwood unannounced. Suitcase as co-pilot, parking under the same maple that had shaded his childhood forts. His parents' trailer hunkered in the trailer park. Aluminum siding dented from hailstorms past. Ma answered the door. Flour-dusted apron over her house dress. Eyes red-rimmed. Liam, no hug. Just the word. Heavy. Inside, Dad nursed a beer at the Formica table. TV murmuring Fox News invective. Heard about the circus, Dad grunted, not looking up. Liam set the suitcase down, locks glinting. It's not a circus. It's her life. Yours too, if you'd listen. He unpacked deliberately, the journal first, reading aloud Eleanor's Paris entry, her joy in stolen dances. Ma's hand fluttered to her mouth. Dad's beer paused mid-sip. Then the photo, Clara's smile radiant. She loved like this. And she loved you, enough to hide it, to protect you from this. He gestured at the trailer, the TV's glow. Silence stretched, broken by Ma's whisper. We didn't know. Thought she was lonely after your grandpa. Dad cleared his throat. It's unnatural, son. The Bible. Liam interrupted, voice cracking. Bible also says love your neighbor. Where's that for me? Harlan's truck rumbled up then, headlights piercing the dusk. But Dad stood slow, arthritic, and blocked the door. Not tonight, brother. Family talk. It wasn't absolution, but a fracture, a crack in the wall. Harlan fumed from the driveway, but left, tail lights fading. Ma made tea, chamomile like Eleanor's, and they sat, the suitcase open like a confessional. Stories tumbled. Dad's hidden poetry notebooks. Ma's regret over not visiting more. We failed you, she admitted, tears salting the cups. Liam nodded, grief and grace mingling. Fix it by letting me be. He left with a tentative hug. The drive back to Cleveland lighter, stars pricking the ink-black sky. Jacob waited with takeout, pierogies from the Polish market, comfort in dough and potato. Over plates on the floor, Liam recounted it, Jacob's laughter rumbling when Dad's stand played out. Progress, Jacob said, but his eyes shadowed. Mine's trickier, he confessed then. Theo, the ex, had shown up at a job site, drunk and desperate, begging for another chance. Told him no, but he kissed me. In front of the crew, Liam's fork stilled, betrayal's cold finger tracing his spine. Not the act, but the secrecy, the echo of family lies. Why hide it? Jacob winced. Didn't want to worry you. With everything, the air thickened, words unspoken piling like unsanded wood. They argued low, voices echoing off brick. Liam accusing walls, Jacob defending space. I need you all in, Liam said, standing, suitcase letters scattering. Not half-built. Jacob rose too, hands raised. I'm here. Building us. The kiss that followed was fierce. Apology in friction, but doubt seeded, a quiet fracture. As winter gripped Cleveland, snow blanketing the lake like shrouds, the court battle raged, depositions where Harlan sneered, Boy's always been dramatic, countered by Reyes Cross. And your motive, Mr. Harper? Financial gain from the estate. Publicity swelled. A local news van staking out the loft. But so did support emails from strangers. Your grandma's a hero, rainbows in the mail. Through it, Liam's art bloomed, exhibiting at a gallery crawl, portraits of Eleanor and Clara in bold strokes. Titled, Inherited Light. Jacob attended, proud in pressed shirt, but tension simmered. One night, post-opening, champagne buzz fading, Theo texted Jacob, visible on the lock screen, "Miss you." One drink, Liam saw, heart plummeting. Him again. Jacob deleted it, but the seed sprouted thorns. Trust, fragile as fresh varnish, cracked further. Spring teased the Finger Lakes with tentative greens, dogwoods blooming like hesitant promises as Liam and Jacob broke ground on the cabin. The plot was a sloping acre, lake view framed by pines, the soil rich from Eleanor's vision. Jacob's truck hauled lumber, his hands blistered but sure, framing walls that rose like vows. Liam sketched elevations, incorporating light wells for his studio, but the probate dragged, Harlan's appeals stalling settlement, costs nibbling the trust. Reyes says another month, Liam reported over campfire coffee, flames crackling against the chill. Jacob nodded, axe pausing mid-swing. We'll make it work. But Theo's shadow lengthened. A week prior, he'd cornered Jacob at a supplier yard, words slurring into pleas, ending with a shove that bruised ribs. Jacob hadn't told, but Liam saw the wince, the guarded glances. The betrayal crested on a rain-lashed afternoon, sight mud sucking at boots as they sheetrocked the interior. Liam's phone rang. Reyes, good news. Judge ruled in your favor. House and trust intact. Elation surged. Liam hooped, tackling Jacob in a muddy hug, their laughter echoing off unfinished beams. We did it, Liam gasped, kissing him fierce under the tarp awning. Jacob grinned, hazel eyes alight. You did. They drove back to Cleveland euphoric, stopping at a roadside bar for wings and whiskey, toasting with clinks that rang like freedom. But in the lot, as rain sheeted the windshield, Jacob's phone lit. Theo heard the news. Celebrate with me? Old times. Jacob silenced it, but Liam's joy curdled. Block him, Jacob sighed. He's harmless now. Harmless proved false 2 nights later. Liam worked late at the Institute, finalizing a portfolio, when Jacob called, voice tight, come home. Now, the loft door hung ajar, splintered at the jamb, glass from a shattered mug crunching underfoot. Jacob sat on the couch, ice pack to his jaw, a cut above his eye weeping blood. Theo sprawled cuffed in the hall, cops murmuring, domestic dispute call from neighbors. Bastard broke in, Jacob said, voice muffled. Said you were stealing my future with your family drama. Swung when I laughed. Liam knelt, thumbing blood from Jacob's cheek, rage and relief warring. Theo's eyes met his from across the room, wild, wounded. You poisoned him, Theo spat. Against us. The cops hauled Theo away. Charges pending, breaking and entering. Assault, but the damage rooted deeper. Jacob iced his face in silence. Liam brewing tea with shaking hands. Why didn't you tell me about the yard? Liam asked finally, sitting beside him. Jacob's shoulders slumped. Didn't want you thinking I couldn't handle it. You're fighting your war. This is mine. The words stung separate battles, not shared. "We're supposed to be a team," Liam said, voice breaking. Jacob pulled him close, the embrace tender but tentative. "We are. Just tired." That night, sleep evaded, the loft's shadows long, Eleanor's bracelet on the nightstand glinting like a warning. Morning brought clarity and fracture. Over oatmeal, Jacob confessed more. Theo's texts had persisted, not just pleas but manipulations. "Remember how we fit? He's using you for money." Liam's spoon clattered. "And you didn't shut it down?" Hurt flashed in Jacob's eyes. "I did. But doubt creeps in. Liam, your family's poison. It's in me now too." The admission hung, the chasm widening. Liam stood, grabbing keys. "I need air." He walked the flats, Cuyahoga churning brown under bridges, graffiti screaming truths he couldn't voice. Betrayal wasn't just Harlan's leaks or Theo's fists. It was this, love's quiet erosion, trust splintered by unspoken fears. He returned to find Jacob packing tools, eyes red. "Don't," Liam said, but Jacob turned. "Space. For both of us." The off again struck, Jacob crashing at a buddy's, the loft echoing empty. Liam dove into work, the cabin site a solitary refuge, hammering nails himself, each strike a exorcism. Letters from Eleanor sustained. "Clara and I fought too, over silences. Speak, or lose." He texted Jacob sparse updates, walls up. "Miss you. Responses delayed. Cool." Harlan, defeated in court, sent a grudging check for estate shares, but victory tasted ash. Ma called, tentative olive branch. "Proud of you, son. Come for Easter." Progress, but hollow without Jacob. Summer heat baked the lakes, wildflowers rioting as the cabin neared completion. Wraparound porch, studio flooded with light. Liam invited the art class for a retreat, voices filling the space with laughter, critiques under stars. Jacob showed once, unannounced, toolbox in hand, fixing a sagging beam. "Looks good," he said, voice neutral. They worked side by side, sweat mingling, tension electric. At dusk, by the lake, Liam broke. "I love you, but I can't half-build this." Jacob's hand stilled on a railing. "Me neither." Theo's gone, restraining order. "But I need to know you're in. All the way." The kiss ignited then, slow burn to blaze, bodies rediscovering rhythms on the dew-damp grass. Not carnal, but connective, souls aligning under fireflies. Reunion bloomed fragile, Jacob moving in, the cabin their anchor. But autumn winds carried omens. A letter from Theo's lawyer, settlement demands veiled threats. "Ignore," Jacob urged, but Liam saw the flinch. At the Institute's fall show, Liam's series, Echoes, sold out, Eleanor's influence etched in every line, critics praising the raw humanity. Jacob beamed from the crowd, but post-reception, in an alley behind the gallery, Theo waited lean shadow in streetlight. "You won," he sneered at Liam. "But he'll tire of your baggage." Jacob shoved him back. Voice steel, "Walk away." Theo laughed, vanishing into night, but seeds of discord sown. Winter gripped again, the cabin snowbound, their love a hearth fire. They hosted Ma for Christmas. Awkward at first, her eyes widening at their joined hands, but she brought pie, stayed for stories. Eleanor would approve, she said, hugging Liam tight. Harlan's silence held, the family fracture mending in fits. But on New Year's, as fireworks burst over the lake, Jacob's phone chimed, a photo from an old mutual, him and Theo, young and entangled at a festival. Nostalgia dump, Jacob dismissed, but Liam's chest tightened. Delete the contact, Jacob did, but the image lingered, a ghost in the frame. The new year dawned with deceptive calm, the cabin's chimney puffing wood smoke into crystalline skies, Lake Seneca a mirror of ice. Liam's career crested, a commission from a queer arts collective in NYC, portraits of unsung LGBTQ+ elders, Eleanor's story The Muse. Jacob's furniture graced a Soho boutique, his name whispered in design circles. They traveled together, first time, a weekend in Manhattan, holding hands in Chelsea Market, the city's pulse syncing with theirs. This is us, Jacob said, over dim sum in Chinatown, chopsticks clinking like toasts. Liam smiled, but Theo's alley words echoed, tire of your baggage, a low hum beneath the joy. Back home, cracks spiderwebbed. Jacob took a solo job in Pittsburgh. Quick flip, gone a week that stretched to 2. Calls grew sparse. Excuses piling. Late nights. Dead zones. Liam filled days with canvas and clay, the studio a womb of creation. But nights chilled, the bed vast. A text arrived mid-February. Miss you. Home soon. But doubt festered, fed by a careless email left open. Jacob's inbox. A thread with Theo. Can't see you, but thinking of old days. You deserve easy. Response. Complicated. But yeah, miss the simplicity. Liam's world tilted, the screen blurring with hot tears. Simplicity code for before him, before the wars. He confronted on Jacob's return. Airport pickup turning inquisition in the truck cab. Saw the emails. Jacob's grip whitened on the wheel. Nothing happened. Just venting. Liam's voice rose over the radio static. Venting? To him? After everything. Jacob pulled over on a snowy shoulder. Engine idling. You're always fighting court. Family. Your head. I needed a breather. The words eviscerated. Betrayal's blade twisting. So I'm the baggage? Liam choked. Jacob reached, but he recoiled. I love you. But yeah, it's heavy. Silence swallowed them. The cab a confessional turned crypt. Liam fled to the cabin alone. Road slick with melt. The isolation a bomb and a blade. He unpacked the suitcase fully, every letter, photo, trinket, arranging them on the mantel like an altar. Eleanor's voice filled the quiet. Clara betrayed me once, chose safety over us. Broke me, but rebuilt stronger. Forgive or release. Tears soaked the pages. Grief for grandma mingling with fresh wounds. Ma called, sensing the storm. Come home, baby. We'll bake. He did. Driving to Elmwood. The trailer warmer now with her efforts. Photos of him and Jacob on the fridge. Tentative acceptance. They talked till dawn. Ma's arms a harbor. Love's work, she said. Worth it. Spring thawed the lake. But Liam's heart lagged. Jacob's texts pleaded. Let me fix this. Therapy? Liam agreed. Couple sessions in a sunlit office overlooking the flats. Words unearthed like fossils. I fear losing you to my chaos, Liam admitted. Hand in Jacob's. And I fear not being enough. Jacob confessed. To carry it all. Progress in fits. But Theo's ghost prowled. A violation of the order. Mail to the loft with pressed flowers and notes. Remember Paris? We could. Jacob burned them, but the scent clung. Climax shattered on a June eve. Cabin half-furnished. A housewarming planned. Liam arrived early, stringing lights on the porch. When Jacob's truck roared up, passenger door flying open, Theo tumbling out, reeking of bourbon. Tell him, Theo yelled, Jacob scrambling after. Months, Theo slurred, jabbing a finger. Secret meets. He can't quit me, Jacob's face drained. Lies, he followed me, ambushed, but Liam saw the flinch, the too quick denial. Show me the phone, Jacob handed it, trembling texts, deleted but recovered in cash, 1 coffee. For closure. Missed this. Heart asunder, Liam backed away. You promised. The porch light buzzed like a dying star as accusations flew. Jacob swearing innocence. Theo cackling chaos. Liam's voice broke through. Enough. Both of you, out of my life. Theo slunk away, but Jacob lingered, eyes pleading. Believe me, Liam's laugh was bitter. I did. Once. He slammed the door, bolting it, sliding to the floor amid fairy lights' glow. Dawn found him packing sketches, Eleanor's bracelet, leaving a note, the cabin's yours. I need to build alone. He drove east, toward NYC's promise, the lake receding like a dream deferred. Months in the city blurred, sublet in Brooklyn, commissions pouring, portraits of elders whose stories mirrored his, loves lost to silence, reclaimed in age. Letters from Jacob arrived, raw scrawls, therapy's hard without you. I was weak, not unfaithful. Coffee was one talk, boundaries. Liam read them in Central Park, under sycamores shedding gold, anger softening to ache. Ma visited, dragging Dad, begrudging hugs, tales of Harlan's downfall, job lost to scandal. You're free, Dad said, gruff. Don't waste it. Fall's turning point, a gallery show, reclaimed, Eleanor's letters illustrated in mixed media. Jacob appeared in the crowd, leaner, eyes haunted. No words at first, just a purchase piece, paid in full. Later, rain-slick streets, he caught Liam at the subway. I sold the cabin plot. Bought piece. Liam halted. Why? Jacob's voice cracked. To prove I'm all in. Therapy. No Theo blocked everywhere. I love you. Baggage and all. Rain mingled with tears. Liam's walls crumbling. Prove it. Jacob did slow. With time. Calls. Visits. Winter healed. Tentative touches rebuilding trust. File 6. By spring's bloom, they returned to the lakes. Not the old plot, but a new one nearby. Joint deed in both names. The cabin rose anew. Jacob's hands steady. Liam's designs infused with light. No grand gestures, just daily devotions. Morning sketches shared over coffee. Evenings by the fire reading Eleanor's letters aloud. Ma came for the housewarming. Harlan absent. Rumors of his divorce. Isolation a mirror to his cruelty. Karma, she whispered, toasting with cider. Dad nodded, silent approval in his grip on Liam's shoulder. Betrayal scars lingered, therapy ongoing. Boundaries etched in stone, but they humanized, turning wounds to wisdom. Liam's book deal landed. Suitcase Secrets. Memoir laced with art, topping queer-lit lists. Eleanor's legacy a beacon. Jacob's line expanded. Pieces named for them. Anchor Grain. Fractured Light. They married quietly. Lakeside. Ma officiating with a justice's license. Vows whispered under willows. Through storms and silences. I choose you. Years wove forward. A gallery in the city. Visits from elders Liam portrayed. Jacob teaching carpentry to at-risk youth. No children, by choice. Their love the family. But a garden bloomed. Wildflowers nodding to Clara's ghost. On anniversaries, they opened the suitcase. Relics touchstones. One eve, stars pricking velvet sky. Jacob traced Liam's palm. She saved you. Liam smiled, leaning in. Us. In the end, not tragedy nor unalloyed triumph, but humanism's quiet arc. Love as rebellion. Forgiveness as strength. A life built not despite betrayal, but through it, fierce, flawed, enduring. The suitcase, retired to a shelf, watched over them, brass locks gleaming like winks from beyond. Love fiercely. It's the only holy thing.